This is just sick. This is just...
Sami Callihan versus Danny Havoc. Two men who embodied the new generation of CZW entering the 2010s. They had some of the more violent matches throughout all of independent wrestling during 2009, or just wrestling as a whole for a while, which culminated with their infamous match at Cage of Death 11, which is considered by most to probably be among some of the best in CZW's history, deathmatch or not, and served as a launching pad for both men early on in their careers in the first Cage of Death event of the DJ Hyde era. And that is what we will be discussing in today's video. If you do enjoy this video and you want to see more videos about all the random and cool stuff that comes from pro wrestling, be sure to leave a like on this video and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. With that being said, let's get right into it.
What's up, TV world? Look at me. I mean, I bet I look good right now. Shave the mustache makes me more aerodynamic.
Meet Sami Callihan. Whether you know him as The Draw, The Death Machine, or The New Horror, you've more than likely come across at least one of his matches during his 19-year career. Although the match in question was before this period, I feel like he is one of the more underappreciated and decorated workers of the 2010s, especially due to his work in Impact Wrestling, where he had excellent matches with a variety of opponents in both a normal and hardcore setting. He's also one of the more underrated promos in all of wrestling subjectively. I feel like he finds his own sound later on in his career, but you could tell a lot from his earlier work just how much he looked up to Mick Foley.
Masters of Pain 2009, The New Horror, Sami Callihan, going one-on-one with my arch nemesis, Danny Havoc. We've wrestled, we've bled, we have shed tears all over the country together.
He is a former world champion in TNA/Impact Wrestling, a former trios champion in Lucha Underground, and won many titles across the world in various promotions including DDT, WXW, AAW, PWS, and the main promotion of discussion for this video, CZW, where he won both the Junior Heavyweight and the Iron Man Championships, the latter of which he renamed to the New Horror Championship. I could probably go on and on and on about Callihan, and I very well might do that down the line, but we're going to cut it here so we can get to his opponent.
Next time I come back to Germany, I will have the best hairdo you've ever seen.
Meet Danny Havoc. When the name Danny Havoc is mentioned in discussions, it's typically in the same light that people talk about performers like Nick Mondo or JC Bailey, in the aspect of being a really good deathmatch performer, but also a really good traditional wrestler, and being able to incorporate the two genres into one, and they complemented each other wonderfully. While he was very versatile and didn't need to rely on one or the other, he did primarily work for deathmatch promotions such as CZW, IWA Mid-South, or even GCW for the later portions of his career, where he is a two-time Tournament of Death winner for CZW and the inaugural Tournament of Survival winner for GCW. Havoc feuded with Callihan throughout the Indies near the end of 2009, with both men facing each other 3 times across 2 promotions in singles action. Those 2 promotions obviously being CZW, but also IWA East Coast. Their first singles match took place on September 12, 2009 at the Down with the Sickness Forever show in the ECW arena for CZW. Havoc defeated Callihan in what was known as a Devil Wears Prada death match, whatever that means, to retain the Ultraviolent Underground Championship. A little over a month later, on October 25th at Tournament of Death Rewind, Callihan beat Havoc in a Caribbean Pit of Death match to win the Ultraviolent Underground Championship, although he would lose the title later on in the tournament to Thumbtack Jack. On November 7th, both men faced each other as part of IWA East Coast Masters of Pain tournament, where Havoc defeated Callihan in a nails and carpet strip death match. The series is set at 2-1, with Havoc taking the advantage going into their 4th match, Cage of Death. Now, something I talked about briefly in the video I made detailing Cage of Death 5 was that Cage of Death comes in all different shapes and sizes. While most Cage of Death matches featured a cage surrounding the ring with a bunch of weapons littered around the canvas, this match had 2 sides standing up and 2 sides lying down made of barbed wire with glass panes placed on all 4 corners of the ring. The match took place at the Cage of Death 11 event on December 12, 2009 and emanated from the artist formerly known as the ECW Arena in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Random detail, but you will not be seeing any light tube action as you may be accustomed to seeing with CZW, as the venue in question had a problem with that, but panes of glass are just fine, I guess. With all that out of the way though, let's get into the match. Both men get introduced as Callihan grabs the mic from ring announcer Larry Legend and asks the live audience to let him know what they think of him. The crowd chants back at him that he's a baguette? Both men stare daggers into each other as the bell rings, where they begin with rapid open palm strikes before going into a battle of forearms. Both Callihan and Havoc attempt to whip one another into the corner with the pane of glass unsuccessfully. They exchange punches before Callihan runs into the ropes, only to eat a big boot from Havoc, who tries to whip Callihan into the corner yet again, only for Sami to stop himself before Havoc just runs into Callihan, who goes back first into the glass. Havoc pulls Callihan out and hits him with a Northern Light suplex into the pin for only a 2 count. Havoc tries to send Callihan over the top into the leaning wall of barbed wire, but Callihan stays on his feet. Havoc runs into the ropes and shoulder tackles Callihan into the wall, but the pane doesn't break. Havoc then goes to the top rope to hit a splash onto Callihan, but the pane is still intact. Havoc gets back up to his feet, but Callihan pulls him back down face first, and this is what finally breaks the glass. Despite that, they make their way out of it and continue the attack. Callihan shoves Havoc's face into that barbed wire and then goes to the middle rope to attempt some sort of attack, but Havoc recovers in time to hit a Russian leg sweep to get them even deeper into the barbed wire. Yeah, they're fucking stuck. They eventually get out of it, and Havoc moves one pane of glass to a different corner and sets up 2 chairs. Havoc tries to get Callihan in a fireman's carry on top of one of the chairs, but Callihan gets out of it and gets Havoc into a Russian leg sweep of his own in a nasty landing. Both men are staggering, but Callihan grabs a chair and whacks it over the back of the head of Havoc, who is beyond busted open at this point. Callihan has a bad gash on his arm that's getting duct tape up as well. Callihan sees Havoc coming as he's being taped up, grabs a chair, and throws it at the body of Havoc. Callihan throws Havoc face first into the cage. He grabs that chair as Havoc lands onto his feet and swings for the fences. Callihan cannot be stopped at this moment as he relentlessly launches chair after chair at Havoc. Callihan looks to sandwich Havoc, but Havoc moves out of the way at the last second. Havoc enters the ring, picks Callihan up, but Callihan counters quickly, gets Havoc onto the apron, and launches himself into Havoc onto the barbed wire, and breaking the pane of glass on the other side. Havoc's body is stuck to the barbed wire like Velcro. Havoc gets out of it eventually while Callihan makes his way onto the makeshift scaffold in between the 2 cage walls. Havoc makes his way up, but Callihan launches a chair at him, but Havoc is still able to crawl onto that structure. Callihan hits the chair over the back of Havoc and shatters the nearby pane of glass in the process before throwing the chair down to the bottom. After a bit of a struggle, Callihan pushes Havoc into the part of that scaffolding that had been rigged to electrocute somebody. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that part. But Callihan would get hit shortly after as Callihan gets kicked by Havoc into a pane of glass face first, shattering it instantly. Havoc slides down and falls down to the canvas, crawls to the cover through the broken glass, but Callihan kicks out at 2. Havoc grabs one of those chairs and whacks it over Sami's head before putting it on top of Sami's body, dragging his body across the broken glass, brings a pane of glass to the corner, gets to the top turnbuckle, and almost uses that as the seesaw onto Callihan. Havoc again goes for the pin, but only gets a 2 count. Havoc sets up a table with some evil intentions in mind. Havoc slams Callihan onto the table, lands him across it, and attempts to climb to the top, but Callihan stops him before he makes it there. Havoc fights him off enough to make his way up there, only for Callihan to follow. Havoc tries to get Callihan in the fireman's carry, but Callihan fights out of it to hit a nasty looking side effect through the glass pane, which doesn't break by the way, and just barely breaks the table. Callihan attempts to pin, but only gets the 2. After much time on the ground to recover, both men drag their way back up to their feet and have a battle of CTE with multiple violent chair shots to the skull. Havoc wins that exchange, sets up a chair, sets that pane of glass up that did not break, and goes for some offense of his own, but Callihan counters into a Saito suplex into the glass. He then goes for another pin to only get a 2 count. Callihan sets a pane of glass up on the bottom rope, goes to the top turnbuckle, and takes Havoc with him. After some struggling, Callihan nails Havoc with a sick pile driver that I don't even think hit the glass plate. Callihan gets up, places the glass onto the corner, delivers some blows to Havoc, but Havoc fights out, attempts a dragon suplex, but Callihan flips out of it, gets Havoc into an electric chair, but Havoc fights out, hits a tiger suplex with Callihan staying on his feet, and gets hit with a sick-ass move from Havoc that I don't even know what to call. Havoc goes for the cover, but yet again gets another 2. Havoc tries for a dragon suplex through the glass, but Callihan gets him back with an electric chair and hits an assault driver through the glass, shades of Nick Mondo, and drags Havoc through the broken glass to attempt a pin, but only get the 2 count. Callihan drags another table into the ring and sets it up as Havoc gets back to hit, CTE shot to the head. Callihan goes for his signature headlock driver, but Havoc fights out of it, hits a headlock driver of his own, but Callihan no-sells it and hits a Death Valley driver onto the broken glass. Callihan pins Havoc for yet another 2 count. Callihan drags Havoc across that table and makes the climb to the top. Havoc recovers enough to make his way up to bring the fight to Callihan, who moves a pane of glass just for the fucking thing to not break again. Callihan fights Havoc face first into the electrified wire, but I think Callihan gets a bit of that also because Havoc gets the upper hand yet again, attempts another fireman's carry, but Callihan fights out of it, pulls out what appears to be a knife or some other utensil, and carves up the back of the head of Havoc before hitting a lifting reverse DDT through the hanging glass as well as the table.
This is just absolutely good God.
Callihan puts the arm over Havoc to finally get the 3 count to end this match. Following the match, the light goes out and comes back on to reveal that Necro Butcher has returned to CZW to save Havoc from any future attack by Callihan, who rolls out of the ring and is dragged by Switchblade Conspiracy tag partner Jon Moxley to the back. This would set up a tag match between the 4 men where Necro and Havoc beat Callihan and Moxley during High Stakes 4, the first CZW show of 2010. The only other time that Callihan and Havoc would face off against each other would be about 6 months later at CZW Southern Violence, where Callihan and partner Joe Gacy would beat the Suicide Kings consisting of Havoc and Scotty Vortex. Despite the series being tied 3 apiece across both singles and tag team action, there would never be a Game 7. I'm not too sure of the reason, since both men were in CZW until late 2012 when Callihan signed with WWE, and even when he was released in 2015, Havoc was still an active wrestler at this point and didn't retire from full-time wrestling until around 2 years later. It's just one of those things that'll always be a what-if scenario, I guess, which is very unfortunate. The match itself was very good, and I feel it really served as a coming out party for both men, especially Callihan in my opinion. Both men nailed every spot and did an excellent job throughout this whole program, selling the idea that they hated one another. Another thing I want to quickly touch on is that in a genre where glass spots often become repetitive, especially during this period of CZW where they were prohibited from doing light tube spots in the venue, these guys did a great job of pulling spots out that I've rarely ever seen or never before in this match. When I made the initial Cage of Death video, I was struggling internally on which one I wanted to cover because I feel like these 2 matches are among the best of the match type. But I think it's pretty safe to say that this match can easily serve as a 1A or 1B when talking about the best Cage of Death in company history. I've had this match on my list of video ideas for the longest now, but I felt it was appropriate to make it now given how CZW is bringing the match type back on December 21st in Atlantic City, not the 2300 arena, so maybe they can use light tubes this time. The main event for the show will be Aaron Ash defending the world title against Deshaun Pratt and Kenta, presumably inside the Cage of Death, and I swear to God this is not a paid sponsorship. I just like helping independent wrestling in any way that I can. If anyone's interested, I will leave a link in the description to where you can buy tickets for the event, as well as CZW's Twitter, so you can keep up with any future announcements for the event. Before I end this video, RIP to Danny Havoc, who tragically passed away on May 31st, 2020 at the age of 34. But yeah, that was the story of Sami Callihan versus Danny Havoc. What did you think? Feel free to let me know down in the comments what you thought about this video, as I look for all feedback, positive or negative. If you did enjoy, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you have not already, so you do not miss out on any future videos. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace out.